전문가 네트워크 IEN의 조직과 운영을 맡고 있는 고려대학교 에너지대 환경대학원 하윤희 교수입니다. 김상혁 탄소중립 녹색성장위원장님, 정진택 고려대학교 총장님, 정부와 공공기관, 기업 관계자, 연구자 등 참석해주신 모든 내외 기빈 여러분께 감사를 드립니다. IEN은 고려대학교의 글로벌 에너지 기술 정책 전문가 과정 PPP의 졸업생 네트워크를 기반으로 하여 시작되었습니다. 아시아, 아프리카 지역 신흥국의 에너지부, 기후환경부, 공공에너지 기업의 간부들인 PPP의 석박사 졸업생들이 모국과 한국 간 협력의 브릿지가 되도록 하자는 취지였습니다. IEN의 첫 번째 포럼은 2019년 베트남 하노이에서 열렸습니다. 발족 1년 만에 코비드 팬데믹으로 위기를 맞았으나 네트워크의 확장은 멈추지 않았습니다. 2020년 인도네시아, 2021년 필리핀 포럼을 온라인으로 개최하였습니다. 2022년 8월에는 말레이시아 쿠알라룸푸르에서 현지 에너지 전문가 18분과 한국 기업 참가자 등 50여 명을 모시고 말레이시아 포럼 발족 세미나를 개최하였습니다. 여전히 팬데믹은 종식되지 않았지만 오늘 서울에서 4개국의 대표들을 모시고 IEN의 2022년 정기 포럼을 개최하게 되었습니다. 지난 4년간 IEN은 지속적으로 확대되어 베트남, 인도네시아, 필리핀, 말레이시아에서 총 85명의 멤버, 그리고 PPP의 졸업생까지 포함해 110여 명의 신흥국 멤버를 확보하게 되었습니다. 그간 IEN은 신흥국 멤버들과 함께 태양광, 풍력, 스마트 에너지 시스템, 재사용 배터리의 ESS 시스템 통합, 전기차 충전 인프라 밸류체인 분석 등 그린 에너지 기술 시장 연구를 수행하였습니다. 연구의 결과는 IEN의 공식 웹사이트인 위텐에 공개되었습니다. IEN의 네트워크는 매년 멈추지 않고 확장될 것이고 기술 시장 연구는 깊이를 다할 것입니다. IEN이 신흥국과 한국 간 기술 연구, 에너지 전환을 통한 탄소 중립에 기여하는 한 신흥국 협력 플랫폼으로 자리매김할 수 있도록 오늘 참여하신 여러분들의 격려와 지지가 필요합니다. 오늘 자료집의 마지막 앞페이지를 펼쳐주시기 바랍니다. IEN의 온라인 홈페이지인 위텐의 소개 내용이 있습니다. QR코드로 접속하셔서 멤버가 되어주시기 바랍니다. 정책 개발, 비즈니스 개발, 연구에 도움이 되는 플랫폼으로 발전시켜 나가겠습니다. 경청해 주셔서 감사합니다. 그러면 IEN의 2022 정기 포럼 그린 에너지 앤 모빌리티 포럼을 시작하겠습니다. 먼저 고려대학교 정진택 총장님께서 오늘 포럼의 개사를 해주시겠습니다.
안녕하십니까. 고려대학교 총장 정진택입니다. 고려대학교 에너지환경대학원이 그린 에너지와 모빌리티라는 주제로 각계 전문가와 기업 관계자들 여러분을 모시고 국제 에너지 전문가 네트워크 정기 포럼을 개최하게 된 것을 큰 영광으로 생각하며 참석하신 모든 내외 기빈 여러분께 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 특히 오늘 이 자리를 빛내주시고 계시는 대통령직속 2050 탄소중립 녹색성장위원회 김상혁 공동위원장님, 인도네시아 아구스 차하자나 위라쿠스마 산업개발부 광물에너지자원 특별고문님, 말레이시아 국립대학원 비그나 쿠마란 라마찬드라 노티 석좌 교수님, 필리핀 에너지부 구르데스 마리아 카프리초 실장님, 그리고 베트남, 인도네시아, 필리핀, 말레이시아, 한국을 대표하여 발표와 토론에 참여해 주실 모든 연사분들께 감사와 환영의 인사를 드립니다. 글로벌 에너지 전문가 네트워크 포럼은 신흥국과 한국의 에너지 전문가와 기업들이 모여 다방면의 협력을 통해 탄소 중립 및 에너지 혁신을 이끄는 플랫폼으로 오늘 이 자리에 모이신 분들은 에너지 대전환을 통한 기후변화 대응이라는 중차대한 임무를 맡고 계십니다. 전례 없던 글로벌 팬데믹 상황이 완전히 종결되지는 않았지만 우리는 일상의 회복과 함께 기후변화, 에너지 수급 불안, 글로벌 공급망 위기와 같은 산적한 글로벌 문제들을 해결하기 위해 담대하게 움직여야 할 것입니다. 본 포럼을 통하여 에너지 전환을 위한 기술 및 정책 개발의 경험과 아이디어가 공유되고 신흥국과 한국 간의 친환경 에너지 개발 협력, 기업 간 파트너십 구축, 기술이 전수되는 통로 마련 등 다방면에서 새로운 가치가 창출되기를 기원합니다. 제가 중장으로 재직하고 있는 고려대학교도 지난 6월 탄소 중립을 선언하고 2045년까지 탄소 중립을 달성하기 위한 구체적인 계획을 수립, 이를 적극적으로 실천해 나가고 있습니다. 1단계로 2030년까지 지속가능 발전 SDGs와 ESG를 연계하여 40%의 온실가스를 감축할 것이며 2단계로 2045년까지 태양광, 수소연료전지 시설, 마이크로디그리를 구축하여 우리가 생산하는 탄소의 양과 우리 학교와 저희 학교가 가지고 있는 수풀이 산림이 흡수하는 탄소의 양이 제로가 되는 같아지는 넷조를 완성할 예정입니다. 본 네트워크 포럼을 주관하는 고려대학교 에너지환경대학원은 탄소 중립을 위한 친환경 에너지 기술 및 정책 개발과 인재 양성을 주도하고 있으며 본 포럼을 통해 글로벌 탄소 중립이라는 목표를 위해서도 최선의 노력을 다하고 있고 앞으로도 계속해 나아갈 것입니다. 이 자리를 빌려 본 포럼을 이끌고 계신 에너지환경대학원 홍승관 원장님, 글로벌 에너지기술 정책 전문가과정 디렉터 강성진 교수님, 포럼 조직위원장 하윤희 교수님을 비롯한 에너지환경대학원의 모든 교수님과 구성원 여러분의 노고에 감사의 마음을 전합니다. 그리고 오늘 포럼을 후원해주고 계시는 산업통상자원부, 에너지경제연구원, 에너지기술평가원과 여러 기업에게도 깊은 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 2019년 시작된 본 포럼의 대면 회의가 오늘 3년 만에 다시 개최되었습니다. 오늘 이 포럼이 인류의 더 나은 미래를 위한 해안이 공유되는 뜻깊은 자리가 되기를 바랍니다. 또한 오랜 기다림 끝에 다시 서로 얼굴을 맞이한 만큼 더 깊이 있는 대화와 친밀한 우정도 함께 나눌 수 있기를 기원합니다. 참석하신 모든 분들의 건강과 행복을 기원합니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다, 총장님. 다음은 한국의 탄소 중립 정책을 총괄하고 계신 대통령 직속 탄소 중립 녹색성장위원회 김상혁 위원장님께서 오늘 포럼에 축사를 해주시겠습니다. 박수로 맞아주시기 바랍니다.
Good morning, everyone. Even though I prepared my script in English, I see many people from many countries, so I would like to dare to speak bad English. If you can withstand that, please put up with that for a minute. And welcome to the International Energy Experts Forum 2022. With the main theme of green energy mobility, I'd like to express my deep gratitude to the people who arranged all this important event, especially Dr. Jung Jin-taek, who is the president of Korea University. And I also like to thank to Professor Hong Seung-wan, who is the Dean of the Green School of Korea University, and Professor Kang Seung-jin, who is my longtime friend, and especially to the forum organizer, who is Professor Han Yun-hee. It's a great endeavor. And I also express my deep gratitude, in particular, to the professor of the professor of University Tenaga Nasional, which is Malaysian National Energy University, who is Vigna Kumaran Ramachandra Moti, and also special advisor to the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources of Indonesia, who is Mr. Agus Cahajana Wirakusuma, and also Madame Lourdes Maria Capricho, who is Division Chief of the Alternative Fuels and Energy Technology Division of the Department of Energy of Philippines. And I also welcome all the people from Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Philippines. We call it MVIP countries. Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Philippines. I really mean it. We are going to increase deep international cooperation with those MVIP countries. Please give that big round of applause. And I just came back from the Conference of Party 27 meeting that was held at the city named Sharm el-Sheikh of Egypt. And until the very end of the conference, the crucial core issue was about loss and damage. That was deepened by the broadening climate crisis around the world. So the COP, or the Conference of Parties, extended the meeting 2 more days until yesterday, Sunday, and they finally agreed to establish a loss and damage fund. That's a progress. And we are making progress every year to counteract against climate change that is threatening our existence itself. But there remains the critical issues, which include so-called liability issues, because low-end energy is provoking kind of legal aspect issues. And as you know, the devil is always in the specific thing. The devil is in the detail. And how much can we deploy and how much money can we deliver in the name of loss and damage is still unknown and very vague, especially when we think about the climate finance. The countries in the world agree that the COP16 that we will mobilize at least $100 by 2020 every year, but still very fall short of that amount we need. So we are therefore casting some doubts of the outcome of COP27. So we can speak many things, but we deliver less than what we have taught. In the midst of this COP27, I'd like to note one thing in particular, that we are all agreed to expand far much more, to expand the renewable and nuclear power in the name of Sharm el-Sheikh implementation plan. And especially, I'd like to let you know the president of the UAE, which is hosting the next year's conference, President Zayed, that he is going to invest $100 billion for clean energy. That is also encouraging news. And on top of that, we all know at the COP26, especially G7 countries agreed to launch JETP, which is Just Energy Transition Partnership, especially focused in South Africa And this time, the COP27 launched another JETP, Just Energy Transition Partnership, this time focusing on Indonesia with $200 billion. Where is the Indian representative here? Okay, great news. And as you might know, Korea is actively engaging in this kind of global cooperation. The President of Korea, Mr. Yoon Suk-yeol, delivered a special speech at the UN General Assembly last September, and by there, Korea will increase its so-called Green ODA, Green Official Development Aid, and Korea is going to try its best as a partnering country to support the green transition of the developing countries, especially, as I mentioned, NVIP countries, by making respective climate cooperation agreement. And that's how we're going to fasten the technology transfer and also launching co-project which is going to reduce carbon emission and nurturing green industries together. And as a co-chairperson of the Commission on the carbon neutrality and green growth, last December we announced 100 important green technologies. And we are going to focus on some of those new green technologies, and we are going to develop with those developing countries, as I mentioned. And in particular, the main theme of today's forum, which is green energy and mobility, is the core area of Korea's concentration. I was the president of the Jeju Research Institute, as some of you know. Jeju, the special self-governing province, has been pursuing carbon-free projects since 2012. The core pillar of those projects is renewable energy, electric vehicle, energy storage system, and smart grid. And we have made many mistakes and errors, while we gained some feasible outcomes. Korea is not going to spare any effort to deliver, to share with you the lessons we gained throughout this important project. And we're also going to do our best to nurture so-called global green talent. We are going to increase education and training. And Korea Green School is the very excellent example how the Korea will move on in the future with many developing countries. That is the most important asset. That was the number one lesson we gained. We have nothing in terms of natural resources. We only had human resources. And we drilled the resources, human-based resources. That's how we could reach here at this point. Okay, and distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, the war in Ukraine caused by Russian attack is giving us a big headache. It is creating energy supply and demand issues that is being combined with global inflation and economic recession in the name of so-called trilemma challenges, and Korea is no exception. But as I said before, if you look at the other side of this problem, we can find strong reason and rationale for us to go for more sustainable development. And as you see at the G20 summit, at last, at the two summits of the two big countries, Mr. Biden and Mr. Xi Jinping met together, and they promised to do something about globally important issues such as climate change. So the choice is at the end is ours. If we really work together, we can change the world. We can make the future as we want, and our next generation can inherit the better future from us. Thank you. Well, I simply forgot one of the most important person I respect deeply, who is Professor Moon Gil-ju, was the former head of the KIST, the #1 Korean science and technology think tank. Please forgive me, Professor Moon.
감사합니다. 이것으로 게시를 마치고 본격적으로 컨퍼런스를 진행하도록 하겠습니다.
첫 번째 세션은 Creating the Innovative Push Trend for Sustainable Energy Mobility 주제로 네 분이 발표를 하시는데요. 그리고 한 분이 개인 사정들이 못 오셔가지고 줌으로 들어와 계실 텐데, Can you hear me? The special advisor English 자하잖아? Can you hear us? Hello? Could you talk a little more? Okay. Okay, you have three speakers for presentation. Okay, we have four speakers for this first session. So let me introduce four speakers. The first speaker is Special Advisor to the Minister for Industry, Agis Jahajana Virakusma. Can you imagine? And second speaker is Professor of University Tenaga National, the Fueguna Turumara Lamachangaram, sorry for the pronunciation. Third speaker is the Division Chief, Alternate Fuels Energy Technology Division from the Philippines. I don't know how to pronounce. Luides Maria Capricho. The first of my quite familiar with us. 홍승교 과장이 또 산업부, 산업부에서 오셨고, 저희들 BPP 담당자시기도 하십니다. Okay, let me introduce the first speaker. Can you hear me? Speakers Albus Jahazana, can you hear me? Yes? Okay, so we have 5 to 7 minutes for presentation. It's a very short speech. So can you start your presentation?
Yes, thank you very much. It's very short. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the occasion. So I'm sorry that I cannot attend myself because I'm getting COVID right now, but I try to deliver my ID from Indonesia. So distinguished panelists, participants, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to begin my presentations by showing the key facts concerning energy and climate change in Indonesia. There are 4 areas which influence mostly today. Indonesia is the world's most populous country and the 9th largest emitters. Second, Indonesia population, economic development and energy resources are spread across the archipelago. The third, electricity access. Next, please. Yes. FTC assets increased from 55% in the early 1990s to almost 100% in 2021, and coal supply increased from only 10% in the year 2000 become 33% in 2021. So the impact, ladies and gentlemen, of this condition compared to situations in the 1990s are energy production, total primary energy, electricity final consumption, and total CO2 emission increase very huge. Next. Ladies and gentlemen, understanding well about the energy situation and its relationship to its climate change impact, Indonesian government is fully committed and carry out energy transitions. So Indonesia submitted an updated NDC and first long-term low emission strategy to an FCC 2021 that Indonesia will progress toward net zero emission in 2060 or sooner. By 2030, national carbon emission reduction target will be 32% if it is business as usual, or 41% if with international assistance. And the National Green Energy Strategy already stated that the current mix NRE or renewable energy, which only 11.5% in 2019, will be raised up to 31% in 2050. Next. Distinguished panelists and participants, as a matter of fact, that Indonesia has a huge renewable energy potential to achieve NZ in 2060. According to analysis in 2016, primary consumption will raise up to 702 million ton oil equivalent, but in the final energy consumption only 310 million. This through the implementation strategy and action plan that will be carried by government and stakeholders. The key implementation is massive renewable capacity ramp up, particularly solar, PV, and wind, gradual early retirement of coal-fired power plant, the third, greater focus on optimizing the efficiency of current technologies, fourth, encouraging the use of electric vehicle and electric stove, and fifth, implementation of smart grid to overcome variable renewable energy intermittency. Ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia has more than 360 gigawatt peak of technical potential renewable that available for development, namely solar, wind, hydro, tidal, geothermal. And it should be noted that the utilization of these renewable resources up to August 2022 is only 0.3%. To develop this potency, the total investment requirement is $1,108 billion up to 2060. Next. Ladies and gentlemen, the mentioned strategy has been translated into energy transition roadmap, as you can see in this slide. So there is in the supply side and also demand side. So the action will be covered like renewable energy development, energy storage, green hydrogen, nuclear, electrification, gasification, and biofuels, and others. Every time is divided by three phases: 2021 to 30, to 2031 to 2040, and to 2041 to 2050. So this will be carried out with a very sharp and step by step. So the CO2 reductions will be covered 370 million ton in the first phase, will become 129 million ton in the second phase, and in the last phase up to 050 will be 1,043 million ton million ton CO2. Distinguished, next, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to exercise a little bit, next please, a little bit concerning the second subtopic that we all are discussing today, that is mobility. The Indonesian government started development plan for the transport decarbonization is far beyond the personal vehicle segment only. It covers all elements of the mobility for people and good purposes. The plan is covering eco-fuel or low-carbon fuel derived from biogas gas and green hydrogen for aviation. Adoptions of fuel cell EVs to heavy-duty vehicles, low-carbon fuel for shipping, electrification port operation, and utilization electric hybrid vessel, implementations of energy efficiency technology in transportations. So ladies and gentlemen, specifically in the EV segment, it is true that the Indonesian personal EV industry is still nascent today, but expected to grow exponentially in the next decades. Four-wheelers or two-wheelers of EVs will grow by 52% and 37% respectively up to the year 2030. So this sector is also to be taken care of. Next. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, finally allow me to conclude my presentation with the closing remarks. The Indonesian population is expected to increase to 331 million in the next 3 decades, hence tripling its economic activity and primary energy supply. Second, in meeting the upcoming energy demand, priority needs to be on developing Indonesia's untapped renewable energy potential for electricity and beyond. The third, the oil and gas and coal sector will continue to play an important role in ensuring energy security during the transition toward clean energy. The fourth, the country's energy mix will need to transform dramatically from fossil fuel to renewable energy. And then this one, up to 0.8 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity will be needed in 2060. Fifth, unprecedented amounts of infrastructure investment will be needed to make it happen. An estimated total of $1,108 billion by 2060, or about $28.5 billion per year. Last, in the information, if the transformation is done with sufficient speed and intent, Indonesia will be able to reduce its emission from 551.3 million ton CO2 equivalent to 129 million ton in 2016. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I return back the floor to moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Special Advisor August Jahajana. He introduced quite the technology potential and energy transition and energy potential to achieve the carbon neutrality in 2006, and also he introduced the Indonesian strategy in green mobility sector. We really regret you couldn't join the conference in Seoul. We are quite sure you will see it next time in Seoul or in your country. Thank you. Thank you. And then let's move to the next presentation. Professor, I will pronounce your name. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's start your presentation in 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me introduce myself. I'm Vigna and I come from University Tenaga Nasional. It is a university which is owned by the largest energy industry in Malaysia called Tenaga Nasional. So basically what I will present to you has got the national perspective and it also has got the industry perspective. So since the topic is sustainability, first let me share with you what the industry is trying to achieve. So by year 2050, we would like to reach net zero carbon, or some people call it a carbon neutrality, and our target is basically by year 2050. And we call it the sustainability pathway, focusing on a few key areas such as renewable, energy storage, electric vehicle, and if you go to a bit more technical level, we call it microgrid, which is basically a combination of distributed resources, virtual power plant, and peer-to-peer energy trading. So peer-to-peer energy trading is kind of unique. It has already been there. It's quite popular in places like Australia, etc. So peer-to-peer energy trading, basically every household, instead of being a consumer, they will become a prosumer. So everybody will have solar on their rooftop, and everybody will be able to start selling energy into the national grid in the form of trading. Okay, so that is also something that we are looking into. And as we speak, I think the government is being formed in Malaysia as we speak now. So this could be one of the key way forward in this country. Secondly, in Malaysian perspective, we aim to have 40% of renewable by the year 2035 in terms of installed capacity. We also have got the National Automotive Policy, which will be covered by my friends Encik Huzaimi and Dr. Hamzi later. And so basically my presentation to you is from the perspective of research. What are the sort of interesting research that is taking place? You know, probably in my university for now. Okay. Mr. Chairman, you don't mind, can I stand? Can I stand? Okay. Okay, good. You know, as lecturers, we like to stand, isn't it? I see a lot of researchers here. Actually, the point is I can't see my slides. Okay, so let me take you through renewable energy. What is becoming popular in Malaysia from the perspective of research? Floating solar. We have got large hydro dams in Malaysia, so we are trying to think about how to put solar on lakes without hurting the fishes. You know, we don't know how the fish are going to react to it, but that's one of the things that we are trying to do. Number two, bioenergy. Malaysia predominantly was an agricultural country, so we have got a lot of biomass, a lot of agricultural waste. How do you convert that into biofuel? That is also a key research area that we have. And from the university I come from, we have got 5 centers of excellence looking into sustainable energy, looking into power, looking into IoT, one looking at policy, and the last one looking at energy infrastructure. Okay. Advanced thin film is also a key area. There is a research which is about 20 million, which is looking into thin film material, organic material, etc., etc. So those days we used to have a conversion efficiency of about 20%. Now we are trying to aim 30-40% for solar conversion. Smart hybrid renewable energy systems. Effectively, it means, yeah, okay, that goes first. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I can't see. Oh, okay. Okay, good. So, thank you. So the next one is low wind speed. Why low wind speed? Malaysia happens to be located at an area where the wind speed is low. We hit about 2 to 3 meters per second, and therefore we need low wind speed turbines. We can't use the ones that we see in Europe. Then flexible substrate, peroxide solar cell development. These are all some of the new materials related solar research. Recycling of PV cells. What happens in 10 years from where we are now? That's also a big contributor to sustainability. And lastly, carbon capture technologies. So under the purview of renewables, these are some of the key areas that we are working on. Energy storage, we are still slightly behind. In fact, we have just installed a 600 kilowatt of energy storage in my university, and basically we bought it from a Korean company as well. They install in our university. We think 3D printing of batteries is becoming popular. 3D printing is very interesting. It is basically batteries that you can mold into any shape. Probably you can also look into putting it into cars. You know, so that's a very interesting thing. Hydrogen fuel cell or even hydrogen car. Probably even, I think it seems like from ICE, combustion engine, we have moved to electric vehicle, and the next is obviously going to be hydrogen fuel cell or hydrogen cars. So that's also going to be a key area when it comes to electric vehicle research. Second life batteries. What do you do with the EV batteries once it reaches its end life of 10 years? What do you do after 10 years? How do you reuse the batteries? There is a plan to use it for community as well. Now we move into electric vehicles, vehicle to grid. That means these vehicles are basically mobile batteries. So wherever you need them, you can deploy them to support the electrical system. Very interesting, and I'm sure in Korea, I've read, there are some pilot studies as well. In Malaysia, they are also looking into pilot case studies for vehicle to grid. Solar power EV charging station, another interesting area in Malaysia, because when you go to rural areas, you need solar to support. The key in electric vehicle nowadays, at the moment, most of the cars are running at 300 kilometers to 400 kilometers. I think Mercedes have reached 1,000 kilometers in a single charge. That's going to be the key. Batteries. How do you make use of the battery and get the best density to quench people's worry about mileage? Last is retrofitting ICE vehicles to EV. We have got a lot of national cars as well. We may not be purchasing new cars. So the key area here is retrofitting. They drive in their old car, you retrofit the car, they drive out with an an EV car. So how do you design the motor, the transmission system, the batteries for them? So that's also a key area that is happening in Malaysia. Last, advanced material. I think none of the earlier three will work without a good material research. Advanced material, some people may call it nanomaterial, etc., is key to getting the best out of renewables, storage, and of course electric vehicle as well. So waste to wealth is a key area. Energy harvesting, waste management, for example batteries, solar fuel cell, and of course storage material. Lithium is probably in its heydays. I think people are looking into advanced material other than lithium. And there's many out there. So I think with this, basically I've given you a fair share of what is happening in research from the perspective of Malaysia. But let me tell you, this is not limited to this. There are many more. I'm just giving you a surface level. Details probably I'll cover in 2 days' time. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Over to you.
저쪽 인도네시아 쪽도 동시 통역이 된다고 그래서요. Sorry for the wasn't translators. 그래서 사실 저희들 말레이시아 지난번에 갔었는데 이쪽 학교에서 많이 하고 있는 배터리라든가 세컨드 배터리라든가 이거를 굉장히 연구 많이 하고 있어서 저희들이 한국 대학들하고 같이 좀 했으면 좋겠다. 특히 우리 그린스쿨하고 많이 했으면 좋겠다 하면서 같이 논의를 했었던 그 대표 교수님 중에 한 분이시고요. 그래서 오늘 에너지 스토리지하고 이제 일렉트리컬 비클 쪽에 특히 배터리 스토리지 쪽에 설명을 해주셨습니다. 다음은 from the 필리핀에서 오셨는데 디비전 칩 얼터너티브 퓨어스 앤 에너지 테크놀로지 디비전의 루데스 마리아 카프리초.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Allow me to present briefly the initiative of the Philippine Department of Energy towards electrification of the transport sector. The driver of which are two, energy security and reduction in energy emission or carbon emission. So as you can see, the transport sector accounts to 30.4% of the total 49% of the consumption of oil, and equivalent to of which is 22% share in the total GHG emission. So as you can see in the next slide, there are several activities prior to the introduction of electric vehicle in the country. We have two major activities, the non-project grant aid from Japan which provides for the demonstration of emerging technology like this next generation vehicle of electric vehicle and hybrid. And number 2 is the market transformation for the introduction of electric vehicle or the e-trike project, which provides for the deployment of 3,000 e-trikes to local government units and national government agencies for them to feel technology. Aside from these programs, we can see here that the number of electric vehicles in the country accounts only for almost 0.1% right now. Out of the 30 million vehicles in the country, there are only 8,500 electric vehicles, and these accounts, majority of which are three-wheel vehicles or e-tricycles. So for the energy demand side and production targets, the Philippine Energy Plan 2020 to 2040 targets the 10% penetration rate of electric vehicles by 2040, and also a further reduction of the energy consumption by 5%, and also the deployment of applicable alternative fuel vehicles for transport and non-transport sector. In terms of policies and issuances, there are two major Republic Acts or laws that were issued. In 2019, we have the policy on energy efficiency and conservation, which includes the provision of development of minimum energy performance for transport vehicles, and also the labeling of vehicles and ratings. Also, there are several department circulars that provides guidelines for the establishment of charging stations in buildings and retail stations. And number 2 important policy that was issued is the Republic Act on the development of electric vehicle industry in the country, or the EVIDA, and also its implementing rules and regulation, wherein the department is tasked with the promotion and the adoption of electric vehicles and development of EV charging stations. This includes the target of 5% mandatory share in the corporate and government fleets, the dedicated parking slots for EVs, and the construction and installation of charging stations in gasoline stations also, and in commercial establishments, and also providing the fiscal and non-fiscal incentives to promote the utilization of electric vehicles. And one also of the provisions of this act is the development of a comprehensive roadmap for the electric vehicle industry, or the CREVI. The different components under this CREVI are the electric vehicles charging stations and electric vehicles, the manufacturing component, the research and development component, and the human resource development component, which was mentioned by Mr. Kim as very important. And in the last 2 weeks, we have already drafted a roadmap, and it was also inputted by several stakeholders. Specifically for the short term, we have to have a competitive price for electric vehicle, and the provision of incentives for the promotion of EVs in the public transport. And eventually, the main long-term objective of this CREVI is to have an all-new vehicle sold that are 100% electric by 2040. So there are other opportunities in the investing of EV and EVCS. We have here the construction of electric vehicle charging stations and support infrastructures, establishment of testing laboratories for safety and efficient operation of EVs, and also research and development on fuel cell technology, and programs and projects on spent lithium-ion batteries as energy storage for power and other applications. Also, opportunity on the manufacture of EV batteries is also open, and also the research and development on fuel cell. And currently, we have a activity on or research on establishment of a testing facility for fuel cell using local components. So that's all our initiatives, and we are very open for shared learnings from other companies or other countries. Thank you very much.
네, 감사합니다. 이게 잘 안 맞아가지고 발표가 저 프레젠테이션 파워포인트를 안 맞는데요. 필리핀 지역의 이제 그 전기차 EV 거래에 대한 로드맵하고 거기에 대한 주요 정책 시점, 시설점을 설명을 해주셨습니다. 네, 마지막으로 한국에 대한 케이스인데요. 네, 홍수경 에너지기술과 과장님께서 한국의 에너지 모빌리티 섹터에 대한 정책과 그린 그로스 스트래티지에 대해 설명을 해주시겠습니다. 부탁드리겠습니다.
네, 안녕하십니까. 한국산업통상자원부 에너지기술과장 홍수경입니다. 오늘 한국과 긴밀한 에너지 협력 관계를 가지고 있는 4개국 전문가 여러분들과 함께 포럼에 참석하게 되어서 진심으로 감사드립니다. 저는 한국의 에너지 정책, 특히나 최근에 한국의 새 정부 이후에 에너지 정책 방향을 중심으로 간략히 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 저희가 금년 7월에 새 정부 에너지 정책 방향이라는 전략을 발표했고요. 그리고 지난달 25일에는 탄소 중립 녹색 성장 추진 전략을 발표했습니다. 그런 내용이 있어서 앞에 슬라이드에 보시는 4가지 섹션에 대해서 간략하게 말씀을 드리도록 하겠습니다. 우선 먼저 클린 에너지 확충과 관련해서 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 밑에 보시면 5가지 정도로 세분화해서 보여드렸는데요. 큰 틀로 말씀드리자면 원자력 발전, 그리고 재생 에너지, 그리고 기타, 석유, 가스 등 한국이 활용하고 있는 공급 파트의 에너지 믹스를 실현 가능하고 그리고 경제 성장을 뒷받침할 수 있는 그런 수준으로 유지하겠다라는 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 특히나 원전과 관련해서는 최근에 전 세계적으로 SMR이라고 하는 소형 원전이 지금 많이 개발되고 있고 각국별로 상당히 다른 타입의 SMR을 많이 개발하고 있는 것으로 알고 있습니다. 한국도 한국형 소위 스마트 SMR이라고 하는 것을 개발하고 있고요. 이게 SMR이 상용화돼서 실제 운영 단계까지 들어가게 된다면 상당 부분 한국의 산업과 에너지 발전에 기여할 수 있을 것이라고 생각을 합니다. 그리고 그 다음으로는 수소 관련인데요. 수소는 특히나 수소 연료전지 형태로 수요가 상당히 많아지고 있습니다. 그래서 수소 연료전지를 활용해서 모빌리티 쪽에도 저희가 활용을 많이 할 계획이고요. 그 다음으로 재생에너지가 되겠습니다. 재생에너지는 기존까지는 이제 보급을 확산하는 그런 트렌드로 진행해 왔었는데요. 저희가 이제 추진을 해보다 보니까 그 해당 지역에 있는 주민들과의 수용성 문제도 사실 조금 있는 부분이고요. 그리고 특히나 이제 산지의 태양광 같은 경우에는 태풍이라든지 이런 자연재해에 관련돼서 여러 가지 좀 문제점들이 있는 것으로 저희가 파악돼서 기본적으로 말씀드리면 주민의 수용성을 바탕으로 해서 추진하겠다 이런 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 그리고 2차 전지라든지 CCUS 같은 부분도 국가 차원에서 상당히 많은 기술 개발과 자금을 지원하고 있다 이렇게 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 그 다음에 두 번째 섹터로 말씀드릴 게 에너지의 수요 부분에 대한 혁신과 효율화에도 최선의 노력을 다하겠다는 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 지금까지의 한국의 에너지 정책이라고 한다면 기본적으로 공급을 어떻게 하느냐, 적재적소, 그 남는 에너지가 없게 잘 공급을 하느냐에 초점이 맞춰져 있었는데요. 이제는 에너지를 어떻게 효율적으로 쓰느냐, 그리고 낭비가 없게 쓰느냐, 이런 부분에 상당한 관심과 노력을 기울이고 있습니다. 그래서 저희가 소위 산업 파트, 수송 파트, 건물 파트, 이런 한 3-4개 주요한 파트별로 에너지 수요와 공급을 제대로 맞추고 그리고 효율을 어떻게 높일 것인가, 이런 부분에 대한 정책 지원을 강화하려고 합니다. 또한 저희가 신재생 에너지가 많아지다 보니까 전력이라든지 이런 그리드를 어떻게 이제 활용할 것이냐 하는 부분에 대해서도 고민을 많이 하고 있습니다. 그래서 소위 한 10여 년 전부터 저희가 스마트 그리드라는 개념을 지금 확립해 왔고요. 그래서 예전처럼 단방향으로 하는 부분이 아니고 양방향으로 맞춰가는 부분들을 노력하겠다는 말씀드립니다. 그 다음에 이제 세 번째, 네 번째는 모빌리티랑 에너지 벤처에 관련된 건데요. 특히나 한국은 2030년까지 수소 전기차를 450만 대까지 보급하겠다는 야심찬 계획을 가지고 있습니다. 그래서 기본적으로는 수소나 전기차 관련된 충전 인프라 확충에 상당히 노력을 할 계획이고요. 그리고 기본적으로 지자체라든지 정부에서 전기차라든지 수소차에 대한 홍보도 많이 하고 있는 상황입니다. 그리고 마지막으로 이러한 에너지 관련된 혁신적인 일들을 하는 그런 기업체들을 많이 발굴, 육성하려고 노력하고 있습니다. 그래서 산업통상자원부에서 작년에 설문조사로 파악을 해본 결과 한국에 2,500개 정도의 작은 기업들이 이런 에너지 쪽에서 벤처로서 일을 하고 있습니다. 그러다 보니까 어떤 데는 상당히 규모가 작기도 하고 어떤 데는 좀 크기도 한데 이런 혁신 벤처들이 시장에 빨리 진입해서 에너지 쪽의 효율을 높이거나 생산성을 높이는데 일조를 할 수 있도록 그런 환경을 만들어주려고 노력합니다. 그래서 저희 기대로는 2030년까지 이 기업들이 한 5,000개까지 좀 늘어나고 매출 규모는 1조 원에 육박하는 그런 기업들도 한 10개 정도를 좀 만들어보자, 이런 기대를 갖고 있습니다. 다음은 간략하게 말씀드리겠습니다. 최근에 한국과 아세안 국가들이 함께 모여서 에너지 쪽에 회의를 한 모습인데요. 중간에 보시면 윤석열 대통령이 보이시고요. 양옆으로 각국의 정상들이 계십니다. 그래서 이제 이때 저희가 발표한 거는 한국과 아세안 간의 경제적 협력을 같이 해나가자, 이런 비전을 발표했는데요. 그 중에서 사실 가장 중요한 것은 에너지 쪽의 협력이라고 생각을 합니다. 그래서 한국 같은 경우는 특별히 전기차나 배터리, 디지털 분야를 중심으로 협력을 강화하겠다, 이런 약속을 드렸고요. 이걸 수행하기 위해서 전기차에 대한 충전 관련 인프라 구축하고, 그리고 여러 가지 기술에 대한 표준화, 인증, 이런 부분도 말씀을 드렸습니다. 그리고 마지막으로는 배터리를 새로 이제 재생해가지고 쓰는 이런 산업들도 저희가 많이 육성을 하고 있는데요. 전기차 산업 환경과 더불어서 이런 폐배터리를 다시 재생해서 활용하는 이런 산업까지 협력을 확대하겠다고 말씀을 드린 바가 있습니다. 제 발표는 여기까지고요. 앞으로도 지속적인 협력 강화를 부탁드리겠습니다. 감사합니다.
네, 감사합니다. 한국의 에너지 믹스 정책을 서플라이 사이드만이 아니라 이제 디맨드 사이드에도 어떻게 하실 것에 대한 설명을 해주셨고요. 또 모빌리티하고 그다음에 이제 에너지 벤처 쪽에 하시고, 그다음 특히 최근에 이제 대통령께서 가셔서 이제 아세안과의 그 한국 아세안 연대라고 연대 이니셔티브를 했다는 걸 소개를 해주셨습니다. 사실 우리가 간단히 발표드린 거는 아시겠지만 이것은 오늘은 그냥 학술대회 차원의 개념이 아니라 각 나라들의 전문가들과의 네트워킹 차이를 그래서 간단히 정책을 소개했고요. 이런 과정에서 이제 다른 나라들이 어떤 정책을 쓰고 있는지를 알아보기 위해서 저희들이 네트워킹 미팅을 했습니다. 그래서 우리가 시간이 많지는 않은 것 같은데 혹시 플로어에서 질문이 있으신 분들 자기소개하고 어느 분한테 특별히 질문하고 싶은지 해주시면 몇 분만 질문을 받도록 하겠습니다. 혹시 플로어에서 질문 있으신 분들? 아니 우리 또 제주도에서 오신 이사장님 어디 가셨어요?
Professor, can I just add something if you don't mind?
Sure.
I come from the Institute of Power back in University National. I would just like to tell you that we have formed the National Energy Center in the university in collaboration with the industry. So what I'm trying to say is we welcome all form of, I think Professor Hanos, we welcome all form of collaboration in the form of joint research. We also have got grants from the local industry and Tenaga. We can do joint grant application, exchange of postdocs, and of course leading to publication as well. So just I would like to share with the group of researchers here. Looking forward to it.
그래서 아까도 말씀드렸지만 이제 대학에 굉장히 연구를 많이 하시는 그 대학이기 때문에 저희들이 같이 논의할 게 많을 것이라고 저희들도 한국에서 상당히 좀 연결을 같이 해서 사실 연구나 이제 그 다른 그 어플리케이션 쪽으로 많이 같이 좀 하자는 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 혹시 질문들 없으신가요? 질문 없으면 제가 공통적으로 그 질문을 제가 하나 던지고 싶은 게 사실 필리핀도 보면은 이모배 전기차 0.006%가 지금 보급이 돼 있잖아요. 0%. 그래서 저는 이런 생각이 드는 거 같아요. 공통적으로 한국도 마찬가지인데 이제 수소차가 가기 전에 전기자동차에 대한 수요가 굉장히 많고 필요성이 많이 느끼는데 각 나라별로 보급되는 속도는 굉장히 느리거든요. 그래서 각 나라에서 왜 이렇게 느린지 한국도 마찬가지로 제주도에서 오신 이사장님 보셨습니다. 그 제주도에서는 굉장히 이제 빠르게 되고 있는데 국가별로 보면 아직은 굉장히 느린 그건데 그 원인이 뭘까요? 필요성은 굉장히 많이 느끼고 충전소 아까 차징 시스템도 많이 하려고 노력하고 있는데 그 속도가 생각보다 굉장히 느린 것 같거든요. 그래서 혹시 각 나라별로 왜 그런지 잠깐 설명을 해주실 수 있으실까요? 예, 한국 예.
중요한 질문 해주셨는데요. 인간의 속성과 관련된 거가 아닐까 생각을 합니다. 기본적으로 사람이 관성이라는 게 있어서 기존에 해왔던 특히나 이제 오랫동안 해오고 상당히 많은 자산이 투입되는 이런 일을 바꾼다고 하는 건 어려운 얘기거든요. 그래서 게다가 두 개, 그러니까 휘발유차랑 전기차를 비교했을 때 환경을 생각하고 이런 걸 따지면 전기차가 좋다고는 하지만 아직까지도 여전히 이제 가격적인 문제들이 있고 인프라적인 부분들도 있기 때문에 그러한 부분 때문에 조금 생각만큼 보급 속도가 빠르진 않지 않나 이런 생각을 들고요. 근데 그럼에도 불구하고 그 단연간의 정책적인 홍보라든지 그리고 실제로 타본 사람들의 경험을 이제 들어보면 다소간의 뭐 속도의 차이는 있지만 상당 부분은 전기차로 이제 바뀌지 않겠냐 이제 그렇게 생각을 합니다.
네, 감사합니다. 인간의 속성, 뭐 가격, 인프라 이런 한국에서의 아마 다른 나라도 유사하긴 할 것 같은데 혹시 그런 말이
I think from a Malaysian perspective, the government policies are there. In fact, it was initiated by our friend there when he was the head of the what do you call the EV movement in the ministry. I think there's only one. I think we have let go perception of EV cars and travel mileage. That is already gone. The cost of vehicles, because the kind of cars that comes into Malaysia, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, it is the kind of cars that I think the normal people cannot afford. But having said that, there are initiatives within Malaysia, the national car makers. There are probably initiatives to bring cars for the general mass. When that happens, Malaysia will take a tangent increase. So it is the cost of car. It should be affordable.
예, 아마 다 이유는 다 비슷하지만 그 코스트 오브 카고가 이제 소비자 입장에서는 다 높은 가격으로 되니까 결국은 아직은 이제 가격이 이제 높은 부분인 것 같은데. From Philippines.
Yes, I agree that it's the cost of the vehicle that is one of the reasons why the penetration is quite slow, and also the range anxiety because of the needed infrastructure for charging. Maybe if the components or the business business model for this like leasing of batteries, or that's one of the probably the solutions. But given that the Philippines has no manufacturing of vehicles, so we import vehicles, so it depends on the cost of the acquisition. So what we are trying to address is to provide fiscal incentives.
Just to add, from country to country, the national electricity tariff can also be a barrier. Like in Malaysia, it's 50 cents per kilowatt hour, which is actually very, very good if you own an EV car and if you charge it in the house. If you charge it in a commercial area, in a highway, it can be very expensive. So that could also be a key player, business model adopted.
예, 아직도 뭐 이제 결국은 다 대부분 공통적으로 가격인 것 같은데요. 스페셜 어드바이저 앞에서 자하자, can you hear us? Can you hear me? Are you still there?
Yes.
We are
Thank you
talking
very much for
about
the questions. I believe that Indonesia is also the same experience. The problem is about the price of the vehicle. The affordability of the people of Indonesia is in Indonesian rupiah is about 300 million rupiah, and the price of one EV with the same performance is about 600 to 700 million. So almost 2 times. The problem actually what we see is about the battery is very expensive. So we expect that once the battery already achieve the mass productions and can be more lower and lower the price, so the affordability of the people will get up. But the government also already published a lot of incentive and tried very hard to decrease the price with a lot of incentive. And the other things that we also offer is about a specialty in a certain area. Like there is a number that only odd and number can enter in the business area, but for EV, for instance, they are free to go to everywhere they like. So this kind of non-fiscal incentive is also actually very meaningful for the users. Thank you.
제가 질문을 던져드렸습니다. 모든 나라들이 공통적인 것은 가격이고 생산 비용이고 뭐 배터리 부분 시작하고 특히 이제 수입을 많이 해야 되는 국가들 입장에서는 또 가격이 비싸고, 그래서 저희들 뭐 저는 이제 경제학을 하지만은 결국은 이제 매스 프로덕션으로 가야지 않느냐. 그러려면 공급도 수요가 굉장히 중요하지 않을까라는 생각이 듭니다. 매스 프로덕션 내면 아무래도 생산 가격이 떨어지기 때문에, 그렇지 않으면 아직까지는 우리가 2050 카본 뉴트럴리티 달성하자는 목표를 세우고 많은 나라들이 하고 있지만 더 많은 노력과 아까 이제 마지막에 말씀하셨처럼 이제 인센티브들을 상당히 이제 난피지컬 인센티브까지 많이 필요하지 않을까 이렇게 생각이 듭니다. 이렇게 해서 네 분 발표를 들어보셨고요. 아까 말씀드렸듯이 저희들이 뭐 아카데믹하게 뭘 해서 오늘 하자는 게 아니고 여러 국가에서 오신 분들하고 이러이러한 정책들이 있다는 소개를 하고 서로가 네트워킹을 통해서 앞으로 지속적인 모임을 하고자 이런 시작에서 우리가 시작을 한 거고요. 뭐 저희들이 또 각 나라에 가서도 하고 있습니다. 그래서 이런 오늘 기회에 각 한국을 포함해서 여러 세계 국가에서 4개 국가에서 발표해 주신 분들 감사드리고요. 좀 이렇게 지속적으로 우리가 이런 네트워킹을 할 수 있으면 감사하겠습니다. 우리 네 분께 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다. 감사합니다.
네, 안녕하세요. 고려대학 매니저 한국대학원의 김경남 교수입니다. 오늘 자장을 제가 맡았고요. 시간 좀 빠듯하지만 아무튼 시간 잘 지키도록 노력해 보겠습니다. 이게 지금 모더레이터가 참 이 세션에 대한 모든 권한을 갖고 있습니다. 그래서 제가 제 편하려고 저는 이 모국어의 한국어가 좀 편하기 때문에 진행은 이제 한국어로 진행하겠습니다. 그래서 필요하시면은 트랜스레이터 기기를 사용해 주시면 좀 좋겠습니다. 오늘 세션, 이 세션의 주제는 그린 모빌리티, 그리고 전기자동차 인프라스트럭처에 대한 미래입니다. 미래 모습을 전문가들의 시각을 한번 조명해 보도록 하겠습니다. 이 모빌리티 참 중요하죠. 이 수송용 이 부분에 있어 갖고의 이러한 전기자동차의 전환 중요하고요. 좀 더 나아가서 이러한 부분은 아마 우리 기후변화 대응에 있어 굉장히 큰 한 축이라고 할 수 있습니다. 누구도 부인할 수 없는 그러한 사실입니다. 근데 이런 기후 대응이 보다 효과적으로 되기 위해서는 아마도 오늘 주제인 그린 모빌리티로 좀 더 확대 발전이 당연히 돼야 된다고 생각을 해야 됩니다. 문제는 이제 그린 모빌리티라고 하는 것은 전기자동차에 들어가는 전기가 화석연료가 아닌 이제 재생에너지로부터 이 전기가 들어가는다는 그 문제가 있습니다. 굉장히 돈도 많이 들고 이게 또 시간도 굉장히 투자가 많이 들어가는 굉장히 큰 우리의 이슈라고 얘기할 수 있습니다. 바로 좀 전에 우리 지속가능발전 위원장님이 컵27 얘기를 하셨는데 이번 컵27의 핫 이슈 중에 크게 하나가 개발도상국에 어떻게 재정적 지원을 하느냐는 이슈였습니다. 말씀드린 대로 이러한 그린 모빌리티는 굉장히 큰 돈과 시간 투자가 필요합니다. 그래서 여기서 우리는 질문을 던질 수 있습니다. 과연 우리가 특히 개발도상국에서 이런 그린 모빌리티로 과연 실현이 가능할 것인가 하는 것에 대한 좀 질문을 좀 던져보고 있습니다. 그래서 오늘 주제 그린 모빌리티 관련해서 저희는 5개 국가의 전문가분들을 모셨습니다. 아세안을 대표하는 4개국, 아까 MVIP라고 말씀하셨는데 인도네시아, 말레이시아, 그리고 필리핀, 베트남 4개국의 전문가분, 그리고 한국에서 실제 PV 인프라스트럭처 시장에서 사업을 하고 계시는 사업자분 이렇게 5분을 모시고 전문가의 좀 견해를 좀 듣고 싶습니다. 과연 아까 제가 모두의 질문 드린 것 같이 전문가 시각으로 볼 때 미래의 그린 모빌리티 과연 이게 각자의 자신의 국가에서 실현 가능할 건지 또 실현 가능하다면 언제쯤 실현 가능할 건지 그리고 만약 이런 그린 모빌리티로 전환될 경우에 현재의 PV 인프라스트럭처는 어떤 변화가 있을 건지 그런 부분도 우리가 좀 생각을 좀 해볼 수 있을 것 같습니다. 세션 진행은 주어지기는 70분이 주어지긴 했는데 일단 발표자분들 각자 발표하실 분 발표를 돌아가면서 계속 듣고요. 나머지 20분에 대해서는 Q&A 세션을 갖는데 좀 효과적으로 하기 위해서 이제 제가 준비한 모더레이터의 질문을 먼저 답변을 듣고 그다음에 시간이 되면은 플로어 쪽에 질문을 듣는 그런 형태로 진행을 좀 하도록 하겠습니다. 그러면은 바로 발표로 들어가도록 하겠습니다. 발표 전에 연사분 소개 드리겠습니다. 첫 번째 발표는 인도네시아에서 오신 전문가분이십니다. 미스터 케빈 고슬란 하디스. 이분은 PL 대표적인 인도네시아의 국영 유틸리티사인 PL 연구소의 송배종 부문 연구자시고요. 현재 주된 이분의 연구 관심 분야는 전력전자, 전기자동차, BMS, 배터리 매니지먼트 시스템, 그리고 전력 품질, 그리고 스마트 그리드 이런 분야가 되겠습니다. 인도네시아 현재 진행되고 있는 EV 인더스트리 인프라스트럭처에 대한 상세한 저희가 내용을 좀 같이 쉐어하지 않을까 생각이 듭니다. 오케이, Kevin, are you ready? Okay, are you ready? Just over to you, floor.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here. It's my honor and pleasure for me to share and discuss with you. Today I will share with you about the electric vehicle development in Indonesia. I will start with the background. I try to highlight the speech from Deputy Minister of State on Enterprises on G20 Summit. The question is how to reduce our reliance of fuel. One of the choices is converting ICE vehicle to EV. Indonesia will save about 1.5 trillion rupiah per year by building EV ecosystem. And currently, the solution is appointed to PT PLN as Indonesia utility company. At the same time, PLN shows readiness to support the era of electric vehicle in Indonesia. To support the readiness of the electric vehicle infrastructure, PLN electricity is more than sufficient. As you can see in the maps, all the regions in Indonesia are electrically ready to support the EV ecosystem. Okay, next is the regulation that support and drive the growth of electric vehicle infrastructure in Indonesia are: first is the Presidential Regulation number 55 and the Ministry Regulation number 13. In this regulation, it is stated that PLN is appointed as a pilot for the development of electric vehicle infrastructure in Indonesia, which can work with other government companies and other business entities or private sector. The Ministry Regulation covers technical regulation and business models, especially for public electric vehicle, charging station, and battery swap station. PLN currently has standards for specification and testing of charging stations, which are described in SPLN D3 13-1/2021. The standard refers to Ministry Regulation number 13, which explains that Indonesia is currently adopting 3 types of block connector, namely IC Type 2, CCS Combo 2, and Charging. The standard also mentions the charging station power level of normal charge, fast charge, and ultra fast charging. Okay, we have done some research on driving behavior in Indonesia. First, related to social mobility and travel time. Social mobility to work or study on the one hand forms a monocentric pattern, meaning movement from the point of origin to the destination on the rotates within the city itself. This tendency is indicated by the location of places to work or study, mostly in the sub-district itself. The distance between the place of residence and the place of work or study, which is relatively close, as well as relatively short travel time. Monocentric here is correlates with a low need for a charging station or an insignificant driving anxiety factor. The need for battery charging can already be fulfilled by home charging. On the other hand, Movement from point of origin to point of destination spreads to a number of locations outside the city itself, forming a polycentric pattern. The polycentric pattern is formed in drives of public transportation such as taxis and private drivers who drive to many locations or out of city. In Indonesia itself, there is a culture of returning to the hometown every year. These drives have a significant driving anxiety factor that correlates with a high need for charging station. The existence of a charging station in this case is very important as a range extender to ensure the driver gets to his destination. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, currently we have made some projection for the growth of electric vehicle and also the growth in the need for charging station in Indonesia. Based on surveys and benchmarks in several countries that have already developed the EV ecosystem, the ratio of EV to the charging station that we use here is 10:1, including the needs of normal, fast, and ultra-fast charging. In 2031, it is predicted that there will be more than 300,000 electric vehicles of four-wheeler car type, and the need for up to 30,000 of charging stations. This optimistic projection is also supported by fiscal and non-fiscal policies to support the development of the EV ecosystem in Indonesia. In the following, the projected development of battery swap station in Indonesia. The majority of people in Indonesia are now users of two-wheel motorized vehicle. Battery swap is important to develop, considering that the conductive charging method still requires a longer time to charging electric vehicle batteries. The projected results show that 2.1 million batteries and more than 67,000 batteries swapping stations are needed in 2030 to meet the needs of the two-wheeler EV market in Indonesia. Okay, and in accelerating the implementation of the assignment to prepare electric vehicle charging infrastructure right now, PLN has several planned programs that have been worked on. First is development of the domestic battery industry with 3 state-owned enterprises, collaborating with charging station and battery swapping station developers, development of charging station business model schemes, ensuring the readiness of electricity supply through the 35 gigawatt program, and also PLN provide 30% discount for charging EV electricity at home that we call overnight charging between 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. And the last, development of e-mobility application for charging station that we call as Charge-in. We also have the platform. Okay, then now we already have some units of battery swapping station that we already realization. 1 unit in Banten, 25 units in Bandung City, 7 units in Bali Island, and about 20 units in Jakarta. And maybe already 100 numbers of private battery swap stations spread in Java Island. PLN continues to encourage the growth of battery swap station and propose to standardize two-wheeler EV batteries, which are currently various on Indonesia market. The updated realization of electric vehicle infrastructure in Indonesia, you can see in the video. The most is two-wheelers EV, around 20,000 numbers, and the next is four-wheelers EV, which reached more than 2,500 until July 2022. As of August 2022, Indonesia have more than 340 charging stations in 295 locations, where PLN has 150 charging stations in 117. locations are shown in the maps. Moreover, we just completed the G20 summit in Bali. We were supported by more than 100 units of Hyundai Genesis car and more than 200 units of Hyundai Ioniq 5 with more than 30 ultra-fast charging units from Signet company and supported by the Tide company as the system integrator and charged in also, and many other Korean company that support us that I couldn't mention one by one, sorry. Last but not least, hopefully in the future Indonesia and Korea and other countries of course can continue to mutually support the development of electric vehicle as future vehicle and support net zero emission. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Once again, thank you for having me here. Thank you.
예, 발표 감사합니다. 우리 미스터 케빈 씨는 인도네시아의 전기자동차 인프라 현황에 대해서 아주 데이터 수치를 갖고 자세하게 잘 설명을 해주셨습니다. 제가 이 발표를 여러분도 한번 느끼셨을 때 이 발표에서 한번 포인트를 찝는다면은 EV 인프라스트럭처에서 인도네시아는 PLM, 이게 유틸리티사인데 유틸리티사가 PBI에 직접 사업자가 참여하고 있다는 점이 굉장히 좀 재밌는 상황입니다. 대부분 이제 유틸리티 전기를 공급하지 실제 그 인프라 사업에 참여한다는 것은 아마 인도네시아의 어떤 특별한 장점이나 계획이 있지 않을까 생각이 드는데 요것은 이제 모더레이터 질문으로 일단 발표 다 끝나고 제가 한번 들어보면 좋을 것 같습니다. 두 번째 발표로 바로 넘어가도록 하겠습니다. 두 번째 발표는 저희가 말레이시아에서 전문가분을 초청을 좀 했습니다. 미스터 하즈마이 누르긴 오마르 씨가 되겠고요. 이 오마르 씨는 현재 그린 EV 차지 SDN의 실제 COO로 일을 하고 계시고요. 또한 말레이시아 국가 즉 EV 충전 및 ESS 관련 국가 표준위원, 되게 표준이 중요하죠. 국가 표준위원회 의장 역할도 맡고 계십니다. 이전에는 말레이시아 녹색 기술 및 기후변화 MGTC라고 하는데 여기 기술 솔루션부로 중역 책임을 맡으셨습니다. 재미있는 이력 중에 하나는 멘사 멤버시네요. 멘사 멤버 되시는 우리 오마르 씨 발표를 좀 듣도록 하겠습니다.
Thank you very much. It's very kind of you, Mr. Moderator. For the organizer, thank you for having me here. So my name is Huzaimi Omar. Previously, I was working with Malaysian Green Technology and Climate Change Corporations. It's an agency under the Ministry of Environment and Water, where I involve heavily on the policy making. Now I have moved to the JV company, pushing for the vehicle electrifications through the industry participations. I put together quite a brief summary for the Malaysia overall EV scenario on the previous presentation that I made in Kuala Lumpur together with some of you guys over here. I zoom in more into the policy, but today I'm talking more about the shifting from the policy side to the industry side, which is, I think, it is very important for the uptake to actually to progress. So in Malaysia overall EV scenario, what we had realized earlier is the contribution of the transportation sector into the emission inventory of the country. So this is quite typical for a lot of countries, but for Malaysia especially, the contribution is on the higher level. On this particular year, it shows 20% of CO2 emission from the road transport, but on some years it reached out to about 29% as well. So it's something that I was looking quite heavily at the time. And from there, we can see who are the contributors for the emission, which is the passenger vehicles is contributed the most, while its market share or the population share is about 46% in Malaysia. The motorcycle also about the equal amount of the inventory in Malaysia, about 46% as well, but the CO2 contribution is very much less, from 58% of the passenger vehicles. For motorcycle is only 12%, and goods vehicles that only cover about 5% of the population, contributed to about 23%. So among all these findings, we realized that there are issues to be addressed, and from there I was heavily involved into this low carbon mobility blueprint that was approved back in 2021. So this has become the first policy document addressing the transport sector in Malaysia. And recently we have this national energy policy that's also being approved. That is kind of like echoing what we had previously proposed. So I put that in the little box at the bottom. There is the national target picking up from this policy. So we have this first target of 2025 to have about 10,000 EV chargers, which 10% of it is going to be DC. So this is actually picking up from LCMB, or the Low Carbon Mobility Blueprint. And at 2030, the target for the national is to have 15% of the IEV in Malaysian new vehicles market. The IEV in Malaysia is not very big. It's about 500k to 600k per year, and we're expecting the number to also grow. So at 2030, the target is to have 15%, and the LCMB actually forecasting up to 2030. Now that we have the national energy policy, it's stretched to 2040, which the target is now is more aggressive. So now we have the national target to have about 38% of the IEV as EV in this national energy policy at 2040. Ultimately, Malaysia is looking at the net zero GHG emission at 2050. So this is kind of like encapsulate where Malaysia target is. So from all this, what I can say is that the industry have reacted quite positively. So it was a struggle during the earlier days back in 2015, 2016 to actually to push for the electrification, the EV on its own. But after this policy came out, so we started to see that it is actually changing the landscape of the EV in Malaysia. So the industry reacting very, very positively. So I just put together very simple some of the highlights, like from the OEM importers. As soon as the LCME were announced, and then there were incentive being announced through our budget as well, which is at 2022, and we have another round of incentive announcement at 2023 budget as well to amplify the direction to go for the EV. So immediately what we have at the time is that we have 3 model launch on the first month of when the budget was announced. It was from BMW, and then they followed by Promas Group, one of the big importer in Malaysia that covered quite a few of model, which is Kia also included. So we are happy to have the Kia 86 in Malaysia, and also coming from group is called Sime Darby Motors, where they also the importer for the Hyundai. So we are happy to have the Hyundai Kona and 185 in the market as well. And in Malaysia, we have this system, this importation requirement. They call it approved permit. So we have this system that called open import, coming from a group called Perkema. So they are importing a lot of EV models coming from Tesla, MG, etc. So on the other end, it's also important to see how the industry picking up on the charging infrastructure, which I put on the right hand side there is the charge point operator. So charge point operator, one of the major one is ChargeEV, which I'm representing today, which is, as I mentioned, this is the JV from the company, from the agency that merging of the technology and so forth, and also the financial assistance. But we are not alone. There is also another big force coming in Malaysia, they call Gentari by Petronas, our key petrochemical company in Malaysia, which are targeting to have about 25,000 charging points in Asia Pacific, which the main market is Malaysia and also India. And there are a few others, quite a few others coming in. So actually from all this, Malaysia is now, it's like a race now. So you can see it's like the charging station is popping up in a lot of places. We try to remove some of the barriers today, which is some of the key barriers is actually the access to the power. In Malaysia, the electricity on the overall supply is very good, but when you're talking about the locality, so this is where the limitations started to come in. And then what we are having is also what we found when we want to put higher power on the cluster of charges. So there are limitations of getting the power and the process take a long time. So what happened also in Malaysia is that the Ministry of Industry and Trade had formed an EV task force. They call it EV task force, where all these issues being addressed by industry and being assisted by the ministries as well. So from there we see that a lot of like support and collaboration between the industry and also the ministry in Malaysia towards the applications. Example of the electrification industry is Yinsen Green Tech, the company that I'm with at the moment. So Yinsen Green Tech holding about 70% of the stake of the charge EV. So the reason why I think it is relevant to bring into the discussion today, because the organization is not only looking at the charging infrastructure or the EV alone. In fact, it covers like holistically. So now when you're talking about organization or corporations, their entry point is more holistic. This is what I think is very useful and very good for the nation. For instance, for Yinsen Green Tech, there are 5 key segments over here. The marine segment, mobility segment, energy segment, digital segment, and also tech segment. So in the marine segment right now, what we are working on is the development of this so-called hydroglider. So hydroglider is an electric boat that can commute 12 passengers at a time. That's going to be first featured in Singapore port. So, and the hydroglider will be equipped with the battery swapping system as well, and with the autonomous technology. So all these technologies like coming together. On the mobility segment, which the focus is more on the land, the reason why this is like being established because there are issues on the accessibility to the EV to some of the potential users. There's a lot of organization that doesn't want to pay for the capex, but rather they are okay for the leasing. So this is among the aspirations, and from the mobility segment, the offering coming from the motorcycle to passenger vehicles, van, and also bus. We also talking to a company that want to actually lease the prime mover or the electric truck. From charging infrastructure, on the energy segment, the key features is charging infrastructure. We have charging station network, charging hubs, and also battery swapping. The battery swapping that we are pursuing now is based on electric motorcycle, and the aspiration is to decouple the price of the motorcycle and the battery. From there, the affordability level will be much easier to reach. Yeah? So we could halve the cost of the motorcycle to the consumer. On the grid infrastructure, moderator is talking about that as well. So we are also looking into the solar panel, energy storage system, and also the substation installer system. And all these need to be supported by the digital segment. That's why you see like the way that it shows on the slide, the ecosystem platform is covered for the whole of the other segment, because it is very relevant. Software as a service and also digital market platform. Zooming into the charge EV itself, coming from the government agency where we used to operate based on single provider. external software. So when they gave us two direct communication at a time, one is the speed to change. We can't adopt the speed of change, and then the other one is the vulnerability. So when the organization decides to exit the market or to limit the access and then be impacted. So that's why now we have our own system. And the charging installation we have evolved from just AC chargers now to the DC chargers, which we already started to install 180 kilowatt and we aiming for 350 kilowatt DC charger as well. And then the after sales services also will improve. So now we have like a dedicated team that is, can help the user from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Of course, I have not gone to the 24-hour cycle just yet, but they will be in as the industry is growing. In the middle of the photos here, you see like some of this artwork. This is what we also aiming to have is like this charging hubs. Yeah. So I think what I was trying to show is like that 3 steps from the policy to the industry and also zooming in where we are to be, especially from where I am right now. Yeah. That's all for me.
네, 발표에 감사합니다. 말레이시아 EVA 쪽에 대한 미래 시나리오 쪽도 다 자세한 설명을 해주셨고, 발표자 연사분의 회사가 말레이시아에서 PBI 쪽의 대표적인 회사다 보니까 좀 더 자세한 어떤 구조적인 내용들, 아주 체계적인 부분들에 대해서 설명을 좀 드렸습니다. 저도 마찬가지로 또 이제 좀 다른 포인트인데요. 여름에 말레이시아를 제가 방문을 해봐서 느끼는, 아마 이게 제 모더레이터 질문이 될 수 있을 것 같은데, 말레이시아는 되게 자동차가 많아요. 네, 진짜 자동차 많아요. 가구마다 자동차 다 있고 많으면 2대, 3대씩 있습니다. 그 이유가 뭐냐? 유지 비용이 적게 드는 거예요. 네, 그렇죠? 연료비가 적게 든다는 거죠. 연료비가 왜 적게 드느냐? 물론 산유국이죠. 네, 산유국이기 때문에 하는 그런 이점도 있지만은 언제나 우리는 그 보조금 얘기를 할 수밖에 없습니다. 화석연료에 대한 보조금 비중이 말레이시아 같은 경우에는 많이 큰 것으로 좀 생각합니다. 이게 지금 정책적인 부분이라서 사업자분한테 좀 그러긴 좀 그런데, 우리가 이제 그 EV, 전기자동차로 한다는 게 사실 이게 또 화석연료에서 이제 전기로 전환한다는 얘기고, 그린 모빌리티로 간다는 게 또 재생에너지 쪽으로 이제 간다는 것인데, 과연 이런 모습으로 볼 때 이런 먼저 우선적으로 이러한 화석연료에 대한 보조금, 이런 부분도 어떤 변화가 좀 필요하지 않을까 하는 그런 생각이 좀 듭니다. 그래서 Q&A 세션에 좀 되시면은 좀 더 그 부분 답변을 해주시면은 아주 저희한테는 좀 도움이 많이 될 것 같습니다. 3번째 발표 자 연사분 소개시켜드리겠습니다. 필리핀에서 오신 전문가분이 되시겠고요. 미스터 벤지마로프 플로레스 이 연사분 소개시켜드리겠습니다. 현재 필리핀 대학교 딜만 문과대학 전기화학공학연구소에서 근무하고 계시는 선임 과학연구 쪽 스페셜리스트 되시겠습니다. 시스템 모델링 소프트웨어 쪽 좀 권위가 있으시고요. 특히 에너지 쪽은 기술경제학 쪽의 그런 연구를 좀 많이 하신 것 같습니다. 특이한 것은 대학에 있으면서 마닐라 소재하는 ESS 관련해서 이제 스타트업의 회사에 또 마찬가지로 이 프라이빗 마켓에서의 어떤 역할도 같이 진행을 하고 계십니다. 자, 그러면은 근데 아마 여러분이 받으신 발표 자료하고 조금 업데이트된 자료로 아마 발표하실 테니까 아마 좀 더 요 위에 스크린에 있는 자료를 좀 더 참고를 해주시면 좋겠습니다. 오케이, 미스터 플로레스, 지겨터.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. My name is Benjamin Florence. The updated slides will be presented on the screen. So before I begin, I'd like to thank the organizer and sponsors of this forum. for making it possible. I'd like to extend my support for building and strengthening the network of industry leaders, policymakers, professors, and researchers in the field of green energy and mobility. And so what I'm going to present now is an overview and some pertinent updates on the state or on the status of EV and EV charging stations in the Philippines. Okay, so let me say at the onset that the Philippine EV industry is in its nascent stage, meaning it's in its infancy stage. So we're dealing with multiple problems that we're trying to solve in parallel, right? So what's shown on the screen are the activities that we're trying to focus on, mainly the pilot stages, and then trying to identify the standards that will be helpful for us, the planning stage, optimization, and then the training of or capacity building. So for the pilot, what's going on right now in the Philippines is that the government and the academe and some government agencies are collaborating in developing what you call this, like batteries of different chemistries and also the infrastructure for charging. So, and also the fast chargers, right? So for the standards adoption, right? So just recently, during a stakeholder meeting, the CCS Combo 2 or the DC fast charging was adapted. Right? There's no comprehensive roadmap yet for the electric vehicle industry in the Philippines, right? But it is scheduled to be issued on the first quarter of 2023. So that's how late we are. So we're playing catch up basically, right? So for the planning activities, we're trying to identify optimal locations for the installation of charging stations. And then also going back to optimization, we're trying to identify the bottlenecks in the current import policies and permitting processes for the procurements of materials and other parts for the EVs. And then also for the training, we have a lack in capacity. Right? So there's not a lot of experts, and there's not a lot of manufacturing capabilities as well. So indeed, we need help in or assistance from other countries from the testing of the performance and also the assessment of existing regulations. And so we're seeking international assistance. Okay, so shown on the screen is the current trend of electric vehicle per year in the Philippines, right? So this is from the number of registrations. You can see that there's a total number of 11,950 EVs in the Philippines, but this data is taken from 2010 to 2019. Right? So we don't have a good data for 2020 because that's the pandemic, so a lot of EVs were not registered. Also, a peak value in 2018 around above 4,262 was recorded. Mainly because during this year, a lot of EVs were available in the market. As opposed to the previous years, wherein the EVs were just mostly donated by different countries and companies. So let's check what are the types of EVs in the Philippines. Mostly, it's comprised of tricycles. Tricycles are three-wheeled vehicles that are very common in the Philippines. So you can see on the screen like what it looks like if you haven't been in the Philippines. That's what a conventional tricycle looks like. Also, we have we call it trike. So the EV counterpart of that is the e-trike. So right now, there's a lot of new e-trikes in the streets. Right? So we use the e-trikes mainly for short-term travel. And then the EVs comprise of motorcycles, around 4,260. So that amounts to 35% of the EV share. And then next will be the UV, or the utility vehicles. Oh, so yeah. So the utility vehicles, or we call it jeepneys, or Jeep. It's in the left down part photo. So that's conventional jeepney, we call it Jeep, and then also the e-jeepney, or the e-Jeep, is the one on the side. And so we use that for middle distance traveling. So we can think of the green bus in Korea, so that's how we use the jeepneys for. The Department of Trade and Industry released this values for their targeted adoption for 2030. So for each vehicle type, they released a number. They identified a number of units, and on the other side, the ideal, or the targeted share of locally manufactured vehicles. So this is quite ambitious, I would say. But I think the Philippines have some capability in manufacturing in terms of the die cast and wire harness for the cars, so we can do that. If you zoom into the first vehicle type, which is the public utility vehicle, these are the jeepneys that I was referring to a while ago. So we plan to manufacture all of them domestically. Right. So for the buses, 50% local manufacturing, that's the target. For the trucks as well. And then the corresponding vehicle types, which are the UV other than the EVs, the two-wheelers, which will be comprising the most number of EVs, or the motorcycles. So we plan to build half of it domestically. So this is the plan for 2030. So for the current trend of EVCS, or the electric vehicle charging stations, currently the number of AC chargers is 250. For the DC charger is 15, and then for battery swapping it's 18. Right. It's like for the AC charger and DC charger, there's a small increase, right? And then for the battery swapping, I think there has been a decrease, like small increase. If you notice in the map, right? So the AC charger is mostly located in the city, Manila, the purple here. Right? So most of the AC chargers, or the slow chargers, in Manila. Also for the DC chargers, there's one in Cebu, right? And then there's one pilot plant up in the north. Right? So battery swapping, meanwhile, is very common in the provinces. So I think because we can implement that easier. So the goal is to put a lot of this EVCS around the country. And then for the roadmap of this is not the final roadmap yet, but generally speaking, this will be the target for each portion leading to 2040. So for the short term, which is 2023 to 2025, well, the government will try and make the electric vehicle cost competitive with the internal combustion engine electric vehicles. Internal combustion engine vehicles. So they will benchmark the various mechanisms to bring the price down and financing further down. Well, the government will also adapt standards to prevent substandard products from flooding the market. And then finally, it will adopt CCS Combo 2 to ensure the charging infrastructure will at least have this DC fast charging standard available. And then the latter is to prevent fragmentation of DC fast charging protocols that will result to large risks and investments for EV and EVCS owners. So in the midterm, which is 2026 to 2030, the goal of the government is to reach critical mass that will push for eventual widespread EV adoption. So one is through the 5% EV mandate, adoption mandate for corporate, public, and government entities. And then the other is by promoting EVs in the public sector. Well, this also coincides with the 2030 commitments of the Philippine NDCs. Right? And then further, for the medium-term goals, the government wants to address the potential concerns that will arise in 2030, where batteries will be replaced and grid impact of EV charging becomes significant. So that's a concern for that year. And then finally, for the long term, which is 2031 to 2040, when the support structures have been finalized, the long-term goals are transitioning to 100% EVs for all new vehicles that will be added to the fleet. And also reduction of carbon footprint in the transport sector, and then also reusing and recycling used EV batteries. So that's for the long-term goals. The enabling policies, as I listed here, was already discussed earlier, so I won't go into detail anymore. One of the main policies is the RA 11697, which is the EVIDA law, the electric vehicle industry guideline. Also, we identified different challenges that we'll be facing. So, again, the end users prefer low investment costs for their new vehicle. And then that's why the internal combustion engine vehicles are still preferred by and large. Also, there's a lack of EV battery manufacturing plants and support infrastructures. And then the government has a very limited fiscal space or fiscal ability to support or to give subsidy at the moment. Also, what's also challenging for us is the monitoring or verification of the new batteries, EVs, and VCs. And then another challenge will be the grid capacity. So the NGCP, which is our electric network, will have to make sure that new microgrids or new charging stations can be compliant and will not resort to congestion in the network. Also, a future challenge will be the lack of battery recycling in disposal facilities. And then lastly will be the current lack of EV standards. So this one we're working on with in terms of adopting the standards that are available, that are accepted internationally. And then some opportunities that will come our way will be the focused government support for EVs used in public transport, such as tricycles and GPs. And then we're gonna do technical assistance can dictate standards to be adopted. So a while ago I said that CCS Combo 2 will be adopted, so that type of product will be available. And then also there's a lot of opportunities for public-private partnership focus. And then opportunities for public-private partnership. Also for EV and EVCS research and development. This will be good for the collaboration of different universities, intergovernment agencies, and also from international collaborations as well. And then presence of EMS companies. And then another opportunity will be the availability of GCF for programs regarding green financing. The rest of the opportunities will be the renewable energy market, and then the construction of EV manufacturing and EVCS facilities. And then lastly, also construction of training facilities and testing laboratories will be a good opportunity for investment. So, in summary, right, the key insights will be planning and the market conditions needed and implementation. Right? So for planning, currently the government is planning for EV manufacturing and procurement and EV fleet management. EV charging infrastructure and grid capacity. The market conditions that will be needed will obviously be high oil prices, because that's going to be that's going to drive the people to look for alternatives. And then, as if we can decrease the cost of EVs, then that will be good as well. And then implementation will be the development of EV battery supply chain, because currently the Philippines we don't have yet a robust supply chain for EVs. And then fleet management and then green financing for EVs. So again, to wrap it up, the Philippine EV market is in its infancy stage and will soon rapidly develop as electrification of the transport sector will allow it to reduce emissions and achieve energy security. So that's it.
네, 시작하시면서 이제 필리핀 연사로는 EV나 EVI가 필리핀 시장에서는 아직 초기 단계라는 말씀을 하시면서도 미래의 모습, 로드맵, 그리고 시장에서의 챌린지 또는 기회까지도 잘 정리해서 설명을 해주셨습니다. 이거는 베트남에서 오신 연사님 계시겠습니다. 그런데 오늘 발표를 당 쪽하고 변경을 해서 두 분 연사님이 반반씩 쪼개서 아마 발표를 해주시겠습니다. 첫 번째 발표, 그러니까 앞부분에 발표하신 분이 닥터 브이번 빈 씨가 되겠고요. 베트남이 이제 사회과학 쪽은 이제 다 모아놓은 그 베스라고 있습니다. 베트남 사회과학 학술원에 계시고 있고요. 그 학술원 내에 지역 지속가능 발전 연구소에서 또 환경 지속가능 발전 부원장님을 맡고 계십니다. 그리고 후반 파트에 발표를 해주신 연사님은 같은 지역 지속가능 발전 연구소에 있으시면서 이번에 사회 지역 지속가능 발전 부원장님을 맡고 계신 닥터 트롬 유겐 씨가 되겠습니다. 그래서 시간이 좀 없긴 한데 아무튼 반반씩 나눠서 자료에 대한 발표를 듣도록 하겠습니다. 그럼 먼저 그럼 우리 빈 박사님 먼저 듣도록 하겠습니다.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Professor Kim. And on behalf of Dedicated Come from Vietnam, we would like to thank to the organizers, Professor Kang and Professor Han, to give us the opportunity to be here today. And yes, go ahead to our presentations with three main points. The first one is what we have on the EVs issues in Vietnam. The second one is what we don't have currently. And the last one, my colleague, Dr. Nguyen Ngọc Trung, will present challenges and opportunities and also difficulties that Vietnam EVs in Vietnam are facing on. And for the first point, yes, what we have a roadmap for just forming EV in Vietnam with for milestone 2020, 2025, 2030, and 2050, very related to the agreement in COP26 signed by Prime Minister, Vietnamese Prime Minister. So in 2025, we target to 100 e-bus running on roads in the almost all city in Vietnam. And by 2030, 50% of all EVs running on roads and 100 taxi and Grab in the city. And by 2050, with target net zero, we try to get a goal 100 e-motorcycle and 70 e-car running roads. And we also create scenarios with three scenarios by 2030 and 2050. And as you see with the high scenarios, by 2030 we have 30 to 72% of e-motorcycle, and by 2050 we have 70% of e-car running abroad and 100 motorcycle. With these high scenarios, we will reduce 1.8% of CO2 emissions in the transportation sector, and for 2050 we'll reduce 4.7% of greenhouse gas emission. We also have EVs, car, and a bus are now running on roads like EV car imported, assembled and manufactured in Vietnam from 2019 to up to May 2022. So in the 2019, we just have 140 e-car running on road. Up to now, up to May 2022, we have 2,259 e-car available. Actually, the cars just only come from the very big corporation, named VIN Corporation. As company EVs is VinFast. They produce a lot of EV car in Vietnam, and because of COVID-19 pandemic happening, I think some difficulty for these companies to expand their manufacture EV in Vietnam. But now they are shipping on the way, shipping 5,000 EV to America, and with transfer to their customer 40,000 car has been rest of it at the moment. And with the VinFast, they also produce e-bus, and now it's they are working in the bus series, big series, Vietnam, Hanoi Capital and Ho Chi Minh series, with a small number. But in the near future, as you see on the roadmap, by 2025, 100% of e-bus running is almost on series Vietnam. Of course, in parallel with the EV running, we have an EV charging system in Vietnam, also set up by VinFast Corporation and And we have 4 kind of charging stations for 2-wheeler, 3-wheelers, and 4-wheelers, and including the e-bus. So you can see we have almost all type of charging system, including slow, fast, very fast, and super fast, are now available in Vietnam right now. And yes, both of them come from VinFast. And of course, VinFast now they have built over 2,000 charging stations in Vietnam, in their apartment, in their shopping mall, in the highway rest stop, and with the 2,100 charging station, they have 40,000 hubs to charge every kind of their EV up to June 2020. So now we have a lot of charging station for EV. And of course, but we also have a power capacity structure system by the end of 2019. And as calculated by the research come from EDS, one of my colleagues, the power capacity is now is not strong enough for if the all of the EV charging system connect to the grid, national grid. So that is one problem now we are facing on. And also the second point is what you can have. Even we have a charging system now available in the road, but we don't have a charging system planning. Sorry about that. Because this everything always Ministry of Trade and Ministry of Investment and Planning are now prepare for it and now preparing for it and to show to the Prime Minister. And we also we don't have EV charging technique regulation. We don't have EV charging standards. And the power supplies that I mentioned earlier, the power supply for EV charging system planning is not so available. So now it's just to subscribe electricity master planning number 8 will be used in 2023. That's it. Now the challenges, difficulties, I will just go to our colleagues.
We are sorry that we divide our presentation into 2 sections because my college, his background is natural science and my background is social science, economics. And for second part, I would like to present about the roles of the government and the roles of company. For EV charging value chain, for the first things I would like to present is that there have been a few companies in our country that installing charging station all around the nation. So far, except in fast.
Briefly,
Okay. And for the second things, when cooperating with FinFast, the apartment building will be installed and with a charging system for electric motorbike and the same type 11 kilowatt AC and 30 kilowatts DC. And for the second part of my presentation about the charger manufacture and e-mobility service, for the roles of the government, the Ministry of Industry and Trade promulgate policy, and for business companies they produce and distribute charge device. Basically, the government only focus on policy and the company focus on producing charger device. And for e-mobility service, the local government and they play a small role, but for business and companies they can operate charger points online and offline. For the third part, I would like to present about equipment supply and installation and field service. For driver, so far the equipment supply is mostly done by company, not by state. And for restaurant, so far the infrastructure in our country is not good, so that foreign companies they don't want to go to our market. And for opportunity, because this advantage and constraint on synchronous device, so that in the future the government would like to invite foreign company, modern company come and help us to invest on the infrastructure. For the challenge, actually we have a lot of regulation and policy, but the policies and other things are unstable, so that in the future maybe we would like to invest and study and promulgate efficient policy. And for the business operation in the market, so far we have a lot of station and charging point, but the VinFast company is a leading country. The leading company they invest so far. So maybe in the future, other company will follow VinFast and invest more charging point all around the nation. And the final part of our report is about charging point service. And for the driver, the private companies, they usually responsible for doing business, but the government, they only focus on power supplier rather than charging point provider. And from the slide, you can see that if the company come to our country, they will get some benefits like 0% of tax if they exemplify and set up the producing EV. And finally, I would like to mention about business in operation and market share. The ministry will make this from the charging pipe back to the car, and the infrastructure and standard of the charging station needs the other ministry to help the government. And our presentation is end. So thank you for your attention.
예, 베트남 발표 잘 들었습니다. 지금 거의 시간이 다 돼서 마지막 연사분들한테 되게 죄송한 시간에 좁혀서 부탁을 좀 드려야 되겠습니다. 베트남 지금 보시듯이 아마 특이한 점은 아까 인도네시아 케이스하고 틀리게 EBI 쪽에서 민간 쪽, 그리고 빈테스트라든지 이런 쪽에서 크게 점유하고 있는 부분이 아마 다르다. 이것은 아마 EBI 쪽이 아마 국가마다 아마 다른 양상을 보이겠다는 것을 아마 자세하게 보여주는 것 같습니다. 마지막 발표자 우리 한국의 실제 사업자분이 되시겠습니다. 우리 차지인이라는 회사의 대표이사 위원 회장이신 우리 최영석 사장님 계시겠습니다. 말 그대로 자동차 완전 매니아이신 것 같아요. 어린 대학 3학년 때부터 실제 사업을 시작을 하셔서 다양한 분야의 장비 이 부분은 EV 완성차 쪽에 공급해주는 그러한 사업을 해주시고 싶습니다. 최 사장님 좀 시간이 좀 그런데 아니요 하셔야죠. 그래서 조금 간략하게 발표해 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
안 해도 되는데 하시라니까 빨리 마치겠습니다. 저희가 보는 충전은 분쟁입니다. 그리고 저희 같은 충전 사업자는 이런 분쟁을 해결하고 돈을 버는 사업자고요. 1단계는 충전기를 설치하는 데 있어서 설치를 해도 된다 안 된다. 한국에서는 이걸 법으로 규정시켰습니다. 의무적으로 건물에 충전기를 설치해라. 이게 한 4년 전 이야기고요. 두 번째는 충전을 하시는 전기차 사용자들끼리 싸웁니다. 충전 끝난 차를 빼라 말아라. 이게 이제 3년 전쯤에 한국에서는 안 빼면은 페널티 주는 걸로 또 법으로 해결하고 있는데 잘 해결이 안 됩니다. 이 불법 주차 아무리 딴짓해도 해결 안 되는 것처럼 전기차 충전은 더 심하고요. 그리고 그리고 3단계가 충전기가 고장났다, 요금이 비싸다, 관리가 안 된다. 이게 현재 3단계고요. 한국에서는 제주도와 대구 정도로 이제 전기차의 밀접도가 좀 높은 지역에서는 이런 현상이 발생을 합니다. 충전은 세 가지 요소가 있습니다. 첫 번째는 장소가 필요하고요. 두 번째는 전기, 정확하게 말하면 전력 설비고요. 그리고 세 번째는 시간입니다. 그래서 저는 충전 사업을 말씀을 드릴 때 이 사업의 속성은 부동산 설비업이고요. 그리고 고객이 사는 거는 전기가 아니고 시간이다. 왜냐하면 급한 사람은 급속 충전기에서 빨리 충전하고요. 내일 아침까지 차를 빼지 않고 싶은 사람은 더 천천히 충전하는 이 자기의 시간을 세이브하는 형태의 비즈니스라고 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 많은 앞에 로드맵 말씀하셨는데 가장 큰 챌린지는 제가 봤을 때는 도심에서 어떻게 충전기를 설치할 것인가. 마찬가지 앞에 말씀드렸던 이런 이제 이 문제를 어떻게 해결하냐가 가장 큰 이슈가 될 거고요. 이거 실제 사례입니다. 아파트에 충전기를 설치를 하는데 전력 설비는 한계가 있기 때문에 충전기 개수를 늘릴 수는 없습니다. 이런 부분에서 어떻게 해결할 것이냐를 기술적인 부분들. 그래서 제가 많이 고민하는 부분이 빨리 충전하는 거 말고 있는 전력을 촘촘하게 쪼개서 나눠 쓰는, 이제 늦게 쓸 수 있는 솔루션. 그리고 가능하면 가격을 가장 싸게 운영할 수 있는 시스템을 이제 고안했고요. 한국에서 이제 임시허가 1호를 받았습니다. 법적으로 안 되는 장비를 규정을 개혁시켜서. 그래서 아마 오늘 오신 많은 나라에 계신 다른 분들이 이 규제에 대해서 많이 고민들을 하실 것 같고요. 이걸 적절하게 그 나라에 맞게 해결하지 않으면은 절대 충전 인프라가 확장될 수가 없습니다. 이건 이제 저희 제품에 대한 내용이고요. 실제 충전 케이스 하나 말씀드리면은 건물에는 완속 충전기 설치할 수 있는 7kg밖에 전력이 없으면은 충전기 하나만 하는 게 원래 표준입니다. 하지만 현실적으로 그게 안 되기 때문에 3개 충전기 설치해 놓고요. 한 대가 들어오면 첫 번째는 문제가 없는데 두 번째 가면은 어떻게 할 거냐? 기다릴 거냐? 아니면 나눠서 쓸 거냐? 그 세 번째가 왔을 때는 기다릴 거냐? 나눌 거냐? 그 다음 네 번째는 어떻게 할 거냐? 이게 선입선출이 되면 괜찮은데 만약에 뒤에 들어오는 차가 우리 회사 대표님 차다. 그럼 그때는 어떻게 할 거냐에 대한 것들도 고민을 해야 됩니다. 실제로 아파트에서 저희는 7kg 충전기, 3kg 콘센트 등 다양한 설비들을 전력의 여분에 맞게끔 낮과 밤에 따라서 사용에 대한 우선이나 요금을 다르게 해서 오퍼레이팅을 하고 있습니다. 그래서 이제 두 가지 정도로 보고 있는데요. 가정집이나 아파트 같은 경우는 원격 검침 시스템 이용해서 실시간으로 전력 사용량을 모니터링해서 충전기를 배분하는 형태. 그리고 이제 큰 건물, 이런 호텔 건물 같은 경우에는 건물의 전력 시스템과 연동시키는 최적화 형태 두 가지를 하고 있습니다. 많은 사람들이 그렇게 말씀하세요. 이 충전을 인프라 사업이다 라고 생각들 하시는데요. 제가 봤을 때는 지금 이 그림에서 왼쪽에 있는 부분, 충전기와 UI와 CMS 서버 왼쪽 단은 인프라 사업이 맞습니다. 하지만 충전은 제가 보기에는 플랫폼과 생태계 사업입니다. 오른쪽에 연결된 것들, 전력이나 건물이나 기타 등등, 이제 이것들과 연결되지 못하면 이거는 확장이 불가능한 형태의 비즈니스다 라고 말씀드릴 수 있습니다. 충전은 실제 도시 환경과 잘 적용이 돼야 됩니다. 이게 설치물이 우리가 살기 편한 장소를 침해해서 들어오게 되면 거부감이 있고요. 아무리 정책적으로 충전기를 많이 보급하고 싶어도 현실적으로 받아들여지지가 않습니다. 많은 이제 이 다양한 전기차들에 대한 특성도 맞춰줘야 됩니다. 승용차가 먼저 들어가는 나라가 있고요, 트럭이 먼저 들어가는 나라가 있고, 그다음 소형 이제 모빌리티들이 들어가는 나라가 있습니다. 그리고 특히 소형으로 들어갈 경우에는 안전에 대한 이슈가 상당히 우려가 됩니다. 이 차량의 가격이 저렴하면 저렴할수록 세이프티에 대한 이슈는 커지고요. 아시다시피 배터리는 한번 불붙으면 끄기가 상당히 어렵습니다. 그래서 여기에 관련된 세이프티 이슈를 어떻게 더 가져갈 것이냐 하는 부분들 고민을 하셔야 됩니다. 그리고 이거 같은 경우는 이제 미국을 중심으로 진행되고 있는 이제 DC 차저 같은 경우인데요. 대부분의 경우 DC 차저가 이제 하나씩 설치되어 있는데 미국 같은 경우에 집중형으로 해서 아예 DC로 배분하는 형태의 충전기, 그리고 전력회사에서 공급되는 전력이 부족하기 때문에 비싸기 때문에 이제 재생에너지를 사실 재생을 쓰고 싶어서 쓰는 게 아니고요. 편하게 만들어 쓸 수 있는 에너지가 그거이다 보니 이제 거기에 관련돼서 그리고 인센티브를 주기 때문에 이제 이걸 집중하는 이제 이런 형태로 인프라가 확장이 되고 있습니다. 그리고 이제 그 외 나머지 같은 경우에 이제 마이크로 그리드 컨셉으로 V2G, V2홈, V2B가 진행이 되고 있는데 이 부분 같은 경우에는 실제 사업성 부분에 대해서는 이미 비즈니스 모델이 미국부터 입증이 됐습니다. 그러면은 실제로는 이거에 대한 표준 그리고 이거에 대한 헤게모니 그리고 가격에 대한 구조를 어떻게 가져갈 거면 어떤 플레이어들이 들어가야 되느냐 즉 기술과 시장 두 가지가 한꺼번에 이루어져야 되고요. 현재 제가 봤을 때는 전 세계에서 이런 서비스를 구현하고 운영해 볼 수 있는 가장 좋은 조건을 가지고 있는 것은 한국의 제주도입니다. 왜냐하면 사용자가 많아야 되고 다양한 사용의 형태가 있어야 되고 다양한 거주의 형태 그리고 다양한 에너지의 형태가 있어야 되는데 이걸 모두 다 가지고 있으면서 뭔가를 해볼 수 있는 장소는 한국이 가장 유리하다라고 말씀을 드릴 수 있습니다. 이상 짧게 핵심만 말씀드렸습니다.
네, 감사합니다. 아마도 한국이 아마 EV의 마켓에서는 아마 좀 선도적인 입장이기 때문에 그런 많은 경험에 대해서 설명을 해주셨습니다. 완전 이거 모더레이트의 잘못인 것 같아요. 시간 관리가 좀 잘못이 돼갖고 양해를 드려야 되겠네요. 사실 우리 그 스피커분들한테 많은 질문 답변을 들어야 되는데 일단 뭐 질문 답변은 아마 우리 그 네트워킹 시간에 각자 자유롭게 진행하는 것이 더 좋을 것 같습니다. 그린 모빌리티 진짜 중요한 부분이고요. 앞으로 실현 꼭 해야 될 부분이고요. 따라서 우리 많이 한국 기업들 오셨는데 우리 한국 기업들 그리고 아세안 국가의 여러 현지 국가들 같이 아주 좋은 그런 비즈니스 오퍼튜니티를 콜라보레이션 있었으면 좋겠습니다. 예, 너무 급하게 되었습니다. 시즌 마무리하도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.